Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. SAG-AFTRA Foundation and BroadwayWorld continue their filmed Conversation Q&A series, which celebrates the vibrant theater community here in New York City. This event, which is coming from the Robin Williams Center, is a special conversation with one of the finest actors of his generation, stage, screen, and television star Bobby Cannavale, who is back on Broadway, co-starring opposite Daniel Radcliffe and Cherry Jones in The Lifespan of a Fact. Enjoy. First of all, welcome back to the New York stage and to Broadway. How does it feel?
Oh, it always feels incredible to be on stage. It's my favorite place to work. It's nice to be uptown. I've never worked at this theater. It's got a great history, besides it being Studio 54, of course. But it's just my favorite. That's my favorite mode to be in, is working on a play. I love rehearsing a play. It's a new play, so I haven't done a new play in a long time, well, since Motherfucker, really. But it was, you know, it was a tough one to work on, and I have great partners in Daniel and Cherry, and I'm just enjoying it. I'm loving it so much. I love being in a play.
What has made being a part of this so special for you?
The play?
Yeah.
Working with Cherry. I've been friends with Cherry for about 25 years, and we've never worked together. You know, it's funny, you work on things that other actors are in, and you never see them, you know, a movie or a TV show, and then you tell people to say hello through other people. And then when you see that person, you go, what's his name say hi? I'd say hi. You were so good in that. Oh yeah, you were too, but you never saw each other. So that was the best part for me, was getting to work with Cherry, getting to work with Lee, Lee Silverman, our director. And also, you know, there's that scary moment. I enjoy doing things that I think are a bit offbeat. They require just trusting my taste, which is always scary to me. Because I don't know if my taste is going to resonate as much with other people. But it's a chance I like to take because I enjoy myself more when I do it that way. It's hard to imagine doing something because for the wrong reasons, because somebody tells you should do it, because there's a financial incentive. So when you do something because you read a piece of material and you go, I think this is good. I'm not sure, but I think it's good. I don't know if anyone else is going to think it's good, and I've had many misses like that.
Yeah.
But in the end, I can't think of anything really that I've done where I've gone, well, I didn't have a good time on it. If I'm doing it, I'm probably having a good time because it resonated for me on some level. Yeah.
You know, watching you, Cherry Jones, and Daniel Radcliffe, how many of you have seen the show already? Okay, I know a lot of people here are going to see the show. I ran into some of them in the lobby. Watching the three of you is like watching a perfect tennis match. And I think I told Cherry opening night, I wish you could all step out of yourselves to watch what you all do and what you give to an audience on stage live.
That's nice. I mean, that's always the number one thing I think whenever I do a play is, I wish I could see this.
Yeah.
That's the worst part of it, right? Because then when you do a movie or a TV show, I don't really want to see it. I'll just watch it once just to kind of see if what they chose, because it's out of our hands, right? And in a weird way, I think maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't know, but you know, with a play, it's really just, you know, you're trying to create life, right, in the moment on stage. And so watching it would almost feel wrong or something. I remember going to see Lincoln Center, going to see plays when I was a younger actor, and I would go, and even then I knew I was always thrilled. I'd be thrilled to see a production that I'd only heard about, but also a bit disappointed. It's not the same thing, right? But with this play, it is three really good parts. It's a three-hander. I'd never been in a play with only three actors before, and it feels like, you know, like those Yasmina Reza plays, you know, where there's not a wasted character on the stage. They've all got their moments, and so it's constructed really well like that. I would imagine it's a play that's going to probably be done around the country quite a bit. Any theater company would probably kill to have their three best actors maybe do that play. So it's a thrill. It's always a thrill to do a new play, you know. And it's a good year for plays.
It's a big year for plays.
It's a big year for plays, yeah.
Well, let's just talk about sharing the stage with them. What's that like? Because there's the three of you up there, and
Yeah.
you're the best. All three of you are the best at what you do.
It's wonderful. Thank you for saying that. It's yes, it's great. It's all. you know, you try not to. We all respect each other a whole lot. You can just tell we all like each other. Thank God, because there's only 3 of us. And from day one, I mean, people got off book really fast without even mentioning it. I think everybody just realized everybody was really happy to be with each other. Yeah. Again, there's only 3 of us, so you know. Cherry wanted to work with me, and Dan has expressed wanting to work together, and I've met him over the years, but none of us really, you know, so I think there was a mutual respect that was unspoken, and by that same token, there's an unspoken continuation of it that we don't talk about, only because you don't talk about those things. You don't want to say, hey, you did something tonight. Let me tell you, it was so great when you did this. You just don't do that, yeah. Right? Or else you'd screw them up. So, but you just feel it. Like, I told Dan the other night, I just told him very generally, I said, man, you're a great ensemble member. Whoever taught you what they taught you well, because he is a very generous actor. He's only 27 years old, and he's just so generous, and he's not competitive. I've worked with all kinds of actors. You know, sometimes you'll get somebody who might be a little competitive on stage, or I don't know, you know. Dan is very, very generous actor, and you know, Cherry's just,
Cherry.
She's the rock in the middle, you know? She's just solid, always.
You talked about Lee Silverman. I mean, she's one of the finest directors. Yeah. What makes her such a great director? Had you worked with her before?
I'd worked with her on many workshops, yeah. Productions, Liz Flahive plays, and we worked on a adaptation of, the first time I worked with Lee, I did a Scarlet Letter. It was a really good workshop. Marissa Tomei and Ron Cephas Jones and Dennis O'Hare and myself, Alec Baldwin. It was a crazy cast. But that was so many years ago. So, and even then, you can tell she was really great with just pulling out what the emotional stakes are. I mean, like, I think any good director can pull out what the highest stakes of the play are at all times, from moment to moment. And with a new play, that can be difficult because all new plays are not the same, and some of them are not constructed in a way that provides for those stakes. And so with this play, it's a weird play in the sense that it was based on a magazine essay, which then got turned into a book, which then got turned into a play by one playwright who was let go from the project, and then 2 other playwrights came on. So it was a beautiful mess. And she is a very, very, very fine crafter of new plays, and she's extremely collaborative. And you know, she picked actors, like she said. She goes, I picked 3 actors that I knew I could work this play with, and then Cherry was invaluable. You know, Cherry's done so many plays over a 40-year career here, and so she was really valuable to bounce things off of as well. But Lee's fantastic with new plays.
You play John DeGata,
yes,
the essayist. After you met him, yeah. Did you then hone your performance in a different way, or it didn't really matter? It
didn't really matter. Yeah. You know, there's like a big meta aspect to this, which is that John DeGata, the guy I'm playing, he's an essay writer, and his fierce belief is that what he does for a living has been done for thousands of years. He teaches essay writing at the University of Iowa. He's the head of the creative writing department, and so he doesn't really see all the hoopla about his changing facts to make his story resonate, because he's like, I'm not writing this for a newspaper. I'm writing it for literary magazines or for my own books, and so he's pretty solid in his beliefs. As an actor playing him, I have to believe that what I'm doing is the right thing, yeah. In order for me to make the positive choices that I get to make. So I already fell in line with what John's beliefs are and what his beliefs are, how they're stated in the play. But having said that, John's whole thing was always, hey man, play. You're not playing me. Play, and let's make this even more confusing for people and play a different version of me. He's like, you don't look anything like me, so we're already off to a good start. You know, John's mother's not gone.
Yeah,
she's gone in the play. You know, she's dead in the play. He brought her the other day, and he told her at dinner before the play that she was dead in the play. And she doesn't use a walker, and she was very adamant in showing me that she was a very healthy woman. Yeah.
None of us knew that.
Yeah. So he's a big, he's quite the supporter of
Love that.
Artistic license. Yeah.
Love it. I want to go back to the beginning. Growing up in Union City, New Jersey, where did your love for performing begin, and what were your earliest creative outlets?
So I grew up in a working class town, Union City, Catholic, predominantly Catholic. I went to Catholic school. My parents were divorced. My mother, the school was 4 blocks away, and I wasn't really allowed to go anywhere. I was pretty much a latchkey kid. And so the only places I was allowed to go were the school or the church or the library. It was like a triangle. And the church, I went to church a lot because it was where all the extracurricular things were. And we had a guy at the church named Joe Neglia, and he was the choir director, he was the theater director, he was in charge of the altar boys, he was in charge of just all the stuff. And he was I wouldn't call him a frustrated actor, because he wasn't frustrated at all. He was the lead in every single play. and he was the lead singer in the choir, and he was incredible. And Joe just, I just very much wanted to be involved at a young age, and he just, he was just very kind to me, as all those people were back then. But particularly, I went to Catholic school, so the Catholic school, like, the teachers were nuns, and so for me, it was like this war between them, because the nuns didn't like me, and I didn't get along with them, so I was always hustling to the church. The rectory was behind the school. Anyway, that's more information, but but I got involved with the plays, we did 3 plays a year at the auditorium where the basketball games were, and I was the only kid in them, and he let me be. I was the youngest person in the choir, and he would cast me as my first play was Guys and Dolls. That's why I love that play so much, and he cast me as one of the gangsters in the underground, in the craps game, and he said, "You're not a little kid, you're serious business here. You're a gangster and you're a gambler, so I don't want you to play it like a little kid." And I think I had one line, and so that was my first foray into it, and I just loved it. Then I did Flowers for Algernon, then I did The Music Man, and I did Man of La Mancha, and then I just started acting in the school plays. But like I said, I was just home all the time, so I watched TV a lot, and I would watch the Sunday afternoon movie was always like a classic, so I'd watch Rebel Without a Cause or Cool Hand Luke or Papillon or these movies with all these great actors, and then of course the Scorsese movies. Then I got really into Pacino more than anybody.
Okay.
And then I just acted in all the school plays, and yeah.
Was there a defining moment for you when you said, "I have to do this. I have to try to make a living at this as an actor"?
I think I always thought. I don't think I had no knowledge of how you would do it. Yeah. Because nobody in my life did that. Everybody worked in jobs, and I didn't know any other actors. And Joe Neglia, he wasn't really a help in that sense. He was just, Joe Neglia just loved doing it. So I never talked about aspirations outside of the archdiocese, outside of St. Michael's, ever. So I didn't really look there. Richie, I had no idea you could go to school for it. I just didn't. I just knew about a thing called Backstage Magazine, and I knew about acting schools, but they never really worked out for me. I tried a couple, and they just never worked out for me. But I knew I wanted to do it at a very, very young age. I was always, I was an early reader. I would read plays at a very young age. We had a great library. The St. Michael's Library was amazing, and they had like an entertainment arts section, and I was always up there. So I would read Life Goes to the Movies and the year-end best of plays. Those were these big volumes, and they were one after another, and I would read every play in there. And I was always just acting things out, and it's just the only thing I ever wanted to do. So.
I think we had the same childhood. I went to the theater drama aisle, Burns Mantle, best plays of, those great books.
Yeah.
And they would have these abridged version of all the plays, and they have 500 photographs in it too.
Yes, the photographs were
cool.
so good.
Yeah.
That's why I liked Life Goes to the Movies, because they would have behind the scenes photos of
on the set.
Yeah, of I don't know, Alec Guinness in all his makeup looks for what was that great movie? Kind Hearts and Coronets, and Olivia. Oh, I remember seeing, that was one of my earliest memories, was one Sunday afternoon they had that Olivier Henry V. And I remember that being really young, and I was starting to already do plays at the church, and you know, that play opens up in a theater, right, at the Globe, and they're throwing shit at the chorus, and Olivier's getting ready, and he's got this really heavy makeup on, and I was like, oh, it's just like we do it in the theater. And then he comes out, and he's acting really big, and I remember thinking, I think I'm better than that. I mean, it was really big, you know, and like the set looked like shit behind him, and then the camera zooms in on the bad painting, and then when it comes out, it's a movie, and everyone's acting different and real, and I just remember being so knocked out by that. At a really, I was maybe 10 or 11 years old, but I'll never forget that. That and Rebel Without a Cause, those two movies, Rebel Without a Cause destroyed me because it made me like, I was already a kind of a badly behaved kid, and but that one really like turned me against my mother. That one really, my mother hated that. She still talks about that movie. She's like, that movie ruined you.
Well, many of your first acting jobs in New York were for free. Tell us about the play that you did that opened on Christmas Eve and what came out of that for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we opened on Christmas Eve at the American Theater of Actors right next to the Midtown North Precinct. You could confuse the two because they're like literally right next to each other. And it was Joe Orton's The Ruffian on the Stair. Yeah, and it opened on Christmas Eve because that was the best, you know, the theater was cheap. And we only played for like till like January 1st. I remember we played January 1st because I was like, really? We can't stop on the 31st and then enjoy our New Year's Eve? We got to come in tomorrow? Complaining already. Working at TGI Fridays, complaining about my theater schedule. And I went, but on that opening night, I got my first agent that way because she was friends with the director. And I got an agent on Christmas Eve when I was 21, I guess.
There's like 3 people in the audience that night,
yeah,
right, or something?
It was like maybe 4 or 5 people, and one of them was an agent. And that's how I got my agent. That's why I always tell people, like, I don't like to give advice. Everybody has their own path, but when young people, I just say, just do it. Just don't not do it. Like, you know, you can get a job anytime. I must have worked at 100 places in this city, and I just didn't care about quitting. I would just quit all the time. I'd quit for an audition and just go like, really, I can't have off? I'm not coming in. I did that so many times.
That's classic, yeah.
There's so many places to work. Yeah. Plus, like, if you know, it's not the job that's going to change your life, right? So, you know, TGI Fridays could fuck themselves. You know? I'm not going to.
Yeah, totally.
I wasn't worried about it.
You received your first Tony Award nomination for playing Dennis, whose occupation was somewhat mysterious, in Teresa Rebeck's play Mauritius, opposite a stellar cast. I mean, F. Murray Abraham, Dylan Baker, right? Allison Pill, Katie Finneran. What did that role and that nomination mean to you?
The role was the play was so good. Yeah. It was, again, it's I think it's Teresa's best play personally, because it was dark and exciting and anthropological in the sense that, like, it was about a world that we never see. It's the dark underground world of stamp collecting. It's a real thing, and people really like, you know, it's thousands, millions of dollars worth of merchandise, right? And deception, and it was my first time on Broadway, and I remember feeling very proud of that, and no clue that something like that would happen in nomination, because we closed in like November. Yeah. And when the Tony nomination, like May, it's around my birthday. So that was just a shocker to me, and yeah, it meant a lot, and it was a hard one because it was the beginning of my relationship with Doug Hughes, who I adore, and just a great group of people. Yeah.
I believe another life-changing and career-changing play for you was The Mother. You just say the name of the...
Motherfucker with the Hat.
Yeah, okay. Where you played Jackie, a former drug dealer, where you received your second Tony Award nomination, this time around for Best Actor in a play. You fought really hard to get that role, didn't you?
I did, yeah. So I'd been in the Labyrinth for a while, but
Yeah.
not as that play was that character was written. Not that Steve writes specifically for people, but he has people that keeps in mind, and the actor who he had in mind for that couldn't do it. And I had done readings playing the other role. I had filled in. Yule was always involved. Elizabeth was always involved. And every reading that was done, they were always in it. And I always played everybody else except for that part. And I would read it with other actors they were thinking about using. So I read it with quite a few people. And the whole time it was kind of like flea in her ear. I was like, fuck, when's he going to ask me to read this thing? And then finally, they got Chris Rock, because Chris was looking for a play and he loved it and he wanted to play Ralph. And I was like, well, check, I'm not going to play that part. I'd read that part a few times. And then I just thought, I always had my eye on Jackie, but because this actor, was originally supposed to play the part, I finally asked him and I said, hey man, can I just read it one time? And Steve didn't believe it. He was like, well, you gotta go and get dirty. Let your beard grow out and don't dress so nice. Which I didn't really get, because I'm not really a snappy dresser or anything. I mean, I'm clean, but it's just funny. Also not that funny if you know Steve, but
Yeah,
anyway,
totally.
so he was like, sure, bro. So we read it, and he was like, wow, dude, he loved it. And he said, you have to read it for the director now. And I was like, okay. So I met Anna Shapiro. She didn't think I was right, and I read it for her, and she signed on. And then Scott Rudin was like, I got to see it. And I read it a third time, the whole play. And every time I did it, I had to do it. I did it with the lab. I did it at the Labyrinth with the whole company there. So it was weird, and it was like an audition. But I also felt very confident in that role. I connected very much with that role on many, many levels, personally. And it's one of the great plays. I just think that play is one of the great American plays, and I was very proud to be in it.
You had a major accident during the run, right? We talked about this the other night, right?
Oh yeah, I split my face open. I had a couple accidents on it, but yeah, I split my face open making an entrance. The same entrance I'd made every night, but I held on to the wrong thing, the wrong support, and I normally I'd see the light and I'd rush out, and this time I had my hand on the upstage one, and I walked into a metal pole, and it knocked me out, and I was bleeding, and they
Because your
stopped
understudy
the
had
show.
left. The standby
My
had left.
understudy had left,
Yeah.
but I wasn't going to let him go on anyway. They stopped the show, and they called for a doctor, and they put a Band-Aid on it, really. There were like 20 minutes left in the show. I finished the show, and then I went to a plastic surgeon, and he sewed me up, and I had a thing in my face here.
You got to spend some time with Al Pacino during that because you were both nominated for Best Actor, right?
Yeah, we met at the Tonys.
So what was that like? Talk about that, because this leads into something totally
Well, he's my
different.
favorite actor,
Yeah.
growing up, and we were both nominated that year. Al for The Merchant of Venice, and me for Motherfucker. And they sat us next to each other. It was like I couldn't believe it. It was a dream, and I said, and so I had to, I had to talk to him, and I introduced myself, and I said all the nerdy things. You're my favorite, blah blah blah, and then I said I have to ask you this. Because I'd already told that story a million times, and it's just true that it was like a mantra for me. Every night before a show, I would say, "Al's going to be in the audience tonight. Al's going to be in the audience tonight." It would juice me up a bit, and I told him that story, and I said, "I've always wanted you to come see me in a play, and I just think you'd like this play." And I said, "It's called The Motherfucker with Danny." "Oh, I'm coming. I said, "Really?" And he said, "Oh, I'm coming next week. Come next week." And he came. And he
Did you know he was
loved
there?
it. No, I didn't know. And he came backstage and he stayed in my dressing room for 2 hours. I mean, everybody had left. Chris Rock came in. Everybody heard Al Pacino was there. So people would come in to talk to him, and he just had no time for them. It was really something, because everybody came to see Chris in that show. It was a party every night in Chris's dressing room. Every night. It was just crazy. It's like Studio 54 doing that show. Every night there was a party in Chris's room. And that night, it was in my room, and Al stayed for 2 hours, and he talked about the play, and he talked about acting, we talked about our families, and he said, "I'm going to call you." And then about a month later, he called me and asked me if I wanted to do Glengarry with him. I couldn't believe it.
Yep. I sat in the first row dead center when you two roll out in that restaurant scene, and I was like, I can't believe, like, it was like the passing of the torch watching.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Al Pacino every night on stage?
I mean, it's everything, you know. Al, he's like the embodiment of like the truest of the true actors. I mean, all Al wants to do is create life on stage and in the moment. And I've done a movie with him now, and I've done a couple movies with him in a play. It doesn't matter where it is. Al's trying to create something in the air, and not everybody does that. And so, therefore, you just never know what's going to happen. You just don't know what's going to happen because whatever's in the atmosphere, Al's soaking it up, and he is turning it into like a real living, breathing moment. It's not the play anymore. It's circumstances and it's stakes and I've never worked with anybody like that before. I've never been so, oh, what's going to happen now with anybody ever, and that he's still after it at his age is crazy. It's not that crazy. I mean, like I think about it all the time. I think about what we do all the time. That's why I couldn't run anything. I couldn't really. People ask me, you want to direct, and like, I think too much about acting and psychology and behavior all the time. I'm always thinking about these things, and Al's the same way. And it's what makes him so kind of young at heart. Yeah. I just saw him the other night, and he was talking about some politician, but it wasn't about the politician so much as it was about this quality that he saw. And he was like, you know, people like that. And then we started getting into a conversation about people like that and why they do the things that they do. And you thought you were talking about some politician in Iowa, but we're talking about something else, and then you talk about playing it and what that must be like to play. And that's what Al's always thinking like that. And I find that just to be, he's just given his life over to the craft. And I admire that very much.
Well, it was remarkable watching the two of you. It still plays in my head. I can still watch your banquette roll out, and I just thought I wanted to be in your head to figure out what was going through your mind. Here you're sitting there with your idol.
I remember when we were rehearsing it, and it was early days, and I was having a hard time with the Link scene, and I said to Al, it's the only time I ever asked him about the movie. I said, I was having a really hard time with this, Dan. I wasn't getting any help from Dan in this moment, and I was like, fuck, I didn't know how to ask the right questions. I couldn't get through this part, and so I just asked him. I said, "Hey Al, when you did Roman the movie, you know." Oh, I didn't say when you did Roman. I said when you did that scene with Link in the film, did you have a hard time with this part? Because I can't seem to I can't get over the hump here. And he went, "What are you talking about?" And I said in the movie when you have the scene with Link, and he goes, I don't remember. I go, do you really not remember? Or are you just telling me that? And he goes, I don't remember. Just did it. I said, okay. All right. Good. Yeah. But he can remember every line of every character in Shakespeare. It's intense. That guy will he'll do any speech from Shakespeare.
You know, I've been doing this for over 26 years, and I remember, I think I followed your career every step of the way in New York. Yep. So it's really exciting for me to finally sit here with you, what you've given these actors here today and the people who are going to watch all around the world. You always return to the theater too. Like, I know that after Vinyl got canceled, you went on vacation, then you came back and you did the Harry Ape. Fabulous production at the Park Avenue Armory. You were so brilliant in that. You just go that extra step. I mean, Clifford Odets' The Big Night, I know is one of your favorite plays, and you did it roundabout. One of the best nights I've ever spent in the theater.
Thank you.
But I want to thank you for taking the time out with your family and doing a show 8 times a week, that you came here and sat with us today.
Thank you.
It means the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Bobby Cannavale.
Thank you. Thanks for coming.